Hello, Rachel here, and I'm going to be talking with you today about Beyond 5 in a Row, Volume 2. So I had a request after my 5 in a row video last week to talk a little bit more about Beyond 5 in a Row, so here goes. So Beyond 5 in a Row is for older kids, ages 8 to 12 is what they say on the book. It's mostly for kids who are doing well with their reading skills and they can read chapter books on their own. So let's get started. In this volume 2, the author lays out at the beginning of the book, which 4 books they're going to study for one semester, and it explains how to use the curriculum. The first part of the book explains that this does not operate the same way as the regular 5 in a row. The younger 5 in a row books is a read aloud that you as the mother or the teacher will read the same book every day of the week, and then you apply a different subject to that book each day, and the teacher guide prompts you on how to draw out information on each topic. Where this one, I wouldn't say that you can hand this over to your student and do independent learning, because it does take a lot of interaction to prompt your student, and as a parent you're going to need to look ahead because there's projects involved in this and there's library trips, and you're going to rabbit trail a bit as your student shows interest in different topics that come up. So she explains here that there's a lot of wiggle room for you to let your student rabbit trail a bit as you run across a topic that your child might be interested in. Basically, each book has a section. So the first book that they read in this volume is called Sarah Plain and Tall by Patricia Mclaughlin. Now, as the parent, I'm going to be able to read this parent summary on this chapter, and you're going to pace through each chapter. Some chapters are going to be short, and you're going to get the activities and the learning concepts done within, it says in the book, maybe half an hour. Other chapters might take you a whole week to cover all of the content that you're going to talk about because you're springboarding off of that chapter. So what's neat about this is that each chapter has lesson activities, and the different subjects that you're going to cover are history and geography, science, language arts, fine arts, and human relationships. Let me see if there were any more listed in the teacher introduction. Let's see. Yep, those were all the sections. Now, she does encourage you to go ahead and get your own systematized arithmetic or math curriculum that you're going to want to use, and when it comes to spelling and penmanship, you're going to want to do your own thing too. But this does cover history, geography, language arts, science, fine arts, and relationships. Now, human relationships, I don't know how I would categorize that in my reporting, but I do like that it's very well rounded so that the child can explore literature, see how that relates to them in real life, and then when they find a connection with the story, they can run with it. So for example, with Sarah Plain and Tall, at one point in one of the lessons, your teacher book brings up the Little House on the Prairie books. This is from actually chapter 1. And it prompts you as a parent to bring those books up to your students so that if they haven't read them, they can pursue them if they want. And if they have read them, now they can relate some of the topics about the prairie and the scene and the setting of the story. It very much corresponds with the Little House on the Prairie books. It's pretty neat. So another thing I want to tell you is that if you're going to use this curriculum, plan on being really tight with your librarian, because what's going to happen is your student will get into a topic because of this book that they're studying, and they might want to dig deeper in that topic. And your librarian, if you can find a librarian who really wants to help, look for stories and information and research for your kid, then you can, team them up. Especially if you have other kids with you. For me, having 7 children, when I go to the library, it is super important that there's a librarian there to assist me, because I need to be supervising my younger kids, and I might have like a small list for the librarian to kind of help my child navigate through to find books on whatever topic that they're interested in at the time. So here's an example: babies and development. So if your student gets really interested in pursuing this more than just your basic notes out of this book that you're going to go over with them, then that's just an example of a way they can kind of get wrapped up in the information. So she also has these little pictures along the margins of the book, and it kind of gives you this quick at a glance. It's a prompt for you to know, okay, we've got writing and discussion questions coming up. We've got some internet stuff that we can look up. There's a few internet links that they provide for you. There's cooking that might be involved that day, that sort of thing. So I definitely think that as a mom, I like to look at this at the beginning of the week to kind of know where are we going this week and what things do we want to have prepared so that we can really dive into this. The last thing I want to mention is when you do this curriculum, you're going to need access to some encyclopedias, research. You're going to need a good timeline, and you're also going to need to be ready to be flexible. You're not going to be able to just cram a bunch of information into one week. This is a very loose style of learning, sort of like what Charlotte Mason encourages, to just learn to love reading, learn to explore the world around you through your reading and through literature. So if you are that personality who wants to check all the boxes and get through so much in a week, this might stress you out because you might feel like you're just kind of floating all over the place. But it really is systematized in the sense that you do have a direction you're going. It's just paced in a different way than your standard workbook. So I just turned to this page because I wanted to point out that she does have in the back what she calls a scope of topics. And as you go through the stories, you can actually just check off the different areas that you've covered. So we've got, your history and geography section for Sarah Plain and Tall, your science section for this book, your literature, your vocabulary words. So for those of you who want to keep track in a portfolio or for reporting purposes, it's all condensed for you so that you can see what exactly you're covering. I like that too, because here in New York State, we have to lay out our plan for the school year to the district. And this would help me because then I can at a glance see these are the topics we are studying this year. This is something concrete that I can look back and say these are what the things that we learned. So I really like that. She does that for each book in here. And let's see. Also in here, she just has a few things that you can copy. She's got a color wheel that gets used at one point, and then some sheet music and a song that you might sing. And there's also a little certificate that you can either tear out or photocopy. I would probably photocopy it for your student once they finish that semester. So you will be doing, if you want to do this all year, you'll be doing 2 books. So this is volume 2, and I have volume 3. I actually don't have volume 1, and this is volume 3. Let's see, I just want to kind of quick mention which books are covered in volume 2. It's Sarah Plain and Tall, The Story of George Washington Carver, Skylark and Helen Keller. And then the second volume is, or the third volume, Neil Armstrong, Young Flyer, The Cricket in Times Square, Marie Curie and the Discovery of Radium, and the Saturdays. So get yourself a timeline so that throughout the studies your student can mark and see where in time these events were taking place and how that corresponds to other historical times, and have access to a computer if you want to do further research on that. Sometimes I even just go on YouTube if it's something that I can't actually go do with my kid. I might, like in this volume 2, there's a section that talks about rock tumbling and the smooth rocks on the riverbed, and it says, you know, you could purchase a used rock tumbler and your child can experience that. But I might not be able to go out and do that. So what I would do is go on YouTube and we would look at some rocks being tumbled and smoothed out and how beautiful they are. And I know that the Science Museum here in town sells these little bags of rocks in their gift shop. So I might even just take my kids down there and go into that shop and buy a little bag of rocks. We wouldn't even have to join the museum if we don't have a membership or if we don't want to go in with admission. So those are just some ideas, and I hope that this is helpful for you. If you have any other questions or comments, feel free to leave those for me.